Welcome to this week's video for two authors, a book, and a beverage. Cheers.
I'm having coffee.
I'm having wine. It's a little early, but who cares?
I want to welcome you too. I hope you're having a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I'm so glad you joined us.
I am too. And what we're going to do this week, it's going to be really fun, or this month, this is for October. We are going to interview each other about our books, our writing, I'm not sure, whatever will come up. I'm going to interview Judy and Anna because she's two people. And I think all authors are a little, multi-personalities because I know mine comes out when I'm writing. So anyway, so Judy, I'm going to start out asking you a little bit tell me about, before we get to your books, tell me a little bit about your writing style or routine. I think readers like to know a little bit about the author and how they, work. They don't just sit down and spill this out and the book's done. Well, maybe some do, but I don't. But anyway, so tell us a little bit.
When I was working full time before I retired, I wrote every morning before I went to work. And now that I'm retired from my day job and I write full time, I usually start off in the morning for a few hours and then I take a break and then I come back in the afternoon. So I'm pretty lucky that I can do that. And when I write, I'm usually constantly thinking about my characters that I'm writing about and the story moving along. So that's what I usually do. And I write in my office. This is my office. And if you're curious about this little white dot that Mary asked me about, it's a doorstop.
I told her she should pretend it's a hidden door into secrets,
I know, my eye keeps drawn to it. So I was trying to think how to cover it up, but that's okay. You know what it is now. So
yeah. It won't draw away.
Okay.
Okay, so I have another question. So you told us how you write, and you're very lucky to be retired because I'm not, and so I have to work around the day job. But anyway, when you get a roadblock or something, or you're writing and all of a sudden you're just, okay, what's going to happen next? What do you do to break that? What do you step away? Do you work through it? What do you do?
There's been a few times I've been come to a roadblock. Matter of fact, on one of my books, I actually wrote my character in a corner. And I thought, uh-oh, I didn't know how to get the character out of that corner. I didn't know. So I started pacing here in my office and I talked to myself. I talk to myself as if I'm my character, and I start to ask questions and then I start to answer. I mean, you'd think I'm off the wall here because that's what I start to do. I'm my character, and I just keep that up and then I step way back and I will either go for a walk, just get away from it for a moment. And then when I come back to it, it seems like a light bulb goes off. Oh, yeah, this is what she can do, So that's pretty much what I do. I find myself pacing and talking and trying to put my character, trying to get in my character's shoes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Now that we know your writing process and what happens, tell us a little bit about your books. I know that you write under Judy Baker and also Anna Sugg. Is that how you say it?
That's right.
And so anyway, tell us a little bit about your books in general, and then we'll talk about your newest book in a minute, but talk about in general.
Okay, I started out writing Western romances and a historical romance first. under Judy Baker. And then when I decided to write some contemporary romance suspense, I opted to go with Anna Sugg. Sugg, S-U-G-G, is my maiden name. So, and my middle name's Ann. So I just opted to do Anna Sugg.
I
And
did not know your middle name was Anne after all of this time. Anyway,
yes, it
go
is.
on.
So anyway, that's how I wound up with Anna Sugg for all of my contemporaries and my historical westerns, except for the one we're going to talk about today is the Quartering Act, and that's a Revolutionary War. So that's historical too. So it's all under Judy Baker, the historical ones.
Okay, well, you brought it up, so let's talk about your book. And I believe that this is the one that we're giving away this month. Oh, where'd she go?
Sorry, I put my bag too far away. My book that I'm going to show you is the one that goes into the bag that will be given away this month. Okay.
For September. So that was the Quartering Act. And tell us, you said it was in the, it's a historical. So tell us exactly what time period and how you came up with this idea.
Okay, the Quartering Act is a Revolutionary War romance. It starts out in 1770, and it takes place in a small colony called Winds Fall, New York. And that's a real place, and it is a tiny town, but it was one of the colonies, this little small colony in 1770, where people were here from England that started a new life. And this is before the Revolutionary War started, except it was the beginning of let's see, what do I say? The king's soldiers, the ones that wore the red coats came to the New World because they needed to be loyal to the king. Okay, so this colony is where my characters are, the ones that wanted to be free. My character in this story is Catherine Heathen. She is a daughter. Her dad is absolutely loyal to the colonist, to wanting to break away from the king, to be independent. He's a patriot of the colonies, and she has a brother that is so adamant about hating these redcoats that are coming in. Suddenly they're just really, the ships are coming in, and his hatred for the redcoats, these loyal servants of the king, his hatred grows throughout the book until it consumes him. And this, to his sister Catherine, there's a big problem, because the Quartering Act, the title, comes from the soldiers, the captains, the loyal servants of the king. They're allowed to go into your home and take it over. That's where the Quartering Act came from. The law says they can do that. Captain Jeremy Burke in this story brings his men and comes to her farm in the house, and it's a large home. There's enough space. He needs it. So they take over their house. And that's how she meets this Captain Jeremy Burke. Well, as the story goes on, that's the love interest that starts. And of course, there's this hatred from her brother. And there is no way she can let him know that after all this time, she has fallen for a king's captain. And I had a lot of, it took me a while to write this story. I had to do a lot of research. I didn't know a lot about royalty. at one point in the story, Catherine actually goes to London. And then I had to stop writing right there. Boom. Do some research. First of all, I had no idea how to address royalty through the book. And a lot of everybody that reads historical or regencies, these readers are adamant about how you address royalty. Okay, for a king and queen, for instance, it's Your Majesty. And I think we all kind of knew that. If you're a prince or princess, you are addressed as Your Royal Highness. Okay, if you happen to be a duke, it's Your Grace. Okay, it even goes on. Let's see. Let me think. An earl, oh, Your Lord or Lady, if you're a countess. Okay. A knight, we know, most people know the knight is Sir. So, and it goes on. There's more. And I had to do a lot of research on how to address the royalty when she went to London. I not only had to do the research on how to address royalty, but I also had to do the clothes, the dress, how the fashion was during that time. It was easier when I was back in the colonies. They were not as elegantly dressed. They're dressed for comfort and for the work that they do, because they're hard workers. They live off the land. They build what they live in. I mean, they're thriving people, and they do it all on their own. And so when Captain Jeremy Burt lands and gets off the ship, he is kind of taken by the colonists because they are so down to earth. All the frills makes no difference to them. That's not important. It's their life, their families, their friends. And this is something he's never been confronted with. So it's a completely different story for him. And he likes it. So he begins to wonder about his life and who he's serving. That's a little bit of pick there.
Okay, and you answered my next question, which was about research. So tell me what you have, what's your work in progress? What's going on with that? What is it going to be about? Is it going to be historical, romance? What's it going to be?
I always have romance in my stories. Right now, my work in progress is women's fiction.
Oh, interesting.
And it's a women's fiction, and it's about 4 sisters, and they're older. They're in their 60s. They're at this date in their life, they're called seniors, okay? And it's about their life, the 4 sisters, what they've been through, and that they're moving forward and having fun living. And it's called, the name, I don't have a book cover, and I'm excited about getting a book cover, but I've only finished the draft. I'm in the 2nd draft right now, and it's called Yaya House, because one of the sisters buys a house on the Oregon coast, and one by one the sisters come to that house, and it's called a Yaya House because they wind up there living together, and for certain reasons of what their life has happened. And it talks about, you know, how you've heard, oh, old age is golden, the golden years, quote unquote. And they talk about how that's not true. They talk about things that people really don't, women don't talk about when they're married and for 60 years, and the little things that pop up. They don't talk about that in the public. And these ladies are talking about private things that happen in their marriage and their life that actually goes on that nobody ever talks about. That's what I'm working on right now.
Well, I look forward to that. So anyway, well, that's been very interesting. I really am interested in your books, and I think everybody else will. So anyway, now it's time for my turn for you to grill me.
Mary, it's my turn. I want to ask you about your book. Now,
Okay.
the book I want to ask you about, is it the book that's going to go in this bag?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I wanted to know everybody that, yes, okay, great. That's the book you're going to get if your name is John. What's the title of your book?
It's called the Coupon de Flores, and that means cup of abundance.
Cup of Abundance. Okay,
Mhm.
what genre is this book?
This is a fantasy.
A fantasy.
Mhm.
Okay, how'd you come up with that title?
Well, the book is set in Ireland. And so I looked at Gaelic, and what they're creating is the cup of abundance, but I wanted it to be in Gaelic, which is what the Coupon of Flores, I'm not quite sure how you say it, because I'm not fluent in English, let alone Gaelic. But anyway, so that's where I came up with it.
Wow. Okay, who's the main character?
Okay, so it's
Do they have a weird name too?
yes, they all have weird names. Well, I did a lot of research. I did a lot of Celtic myth research, and a lot of them are descendants. It's fiction, so I didn't do it as, you know, the actual mythic gods or anything like that. I did it as descendants. So these are all, it's a family, and they're, you know, surrounding people, you know. And it is they're descendants of Tuatha De Danann, which is a Celtic god, and they had enemies, and then I created a witch to be there, you know, against them, and it's a trilogy, so you have to read the whole thing, and you have to read it in order. It's not like a series where they're standalone. You do need to read them in order, and to be completely done, you have to read book 1, and then book 2 is In Search, and then book 3 is Returning. And so the main characters are Ambergin, which is the wizard, Mordra, which is the evil witch, and Abel Brid de Danann, she's the heroine, and her mother Maeve, and her father Nuada. And then the love interest who she meets is Cuchulainn, and they're all named in mythology. So if you know your Celtic mythology, you would probably recognize some of these names. And so it's basically around all of those. There's a daughter here and there, and, you know, other people, but those are the main characters.
So I noticed on your book cover, the first one, there's a dragon. Was it the first one?
Yes.
Is there a dragon in your story?
Yes, and he is in there the whole time.
I love dragons.
Palred the Magnificent. So he is created in this book 1. They actually create him, and he's with them through the whole thing. There's also an evil dragon called Ferger. And hold on just one moment. I meant to have these out.
It's okay, we'll wait.
These are my 3D dragons. So,
wow.
And then I've got, this is the black dragon, which is Ferger.
Oh, he's pretty neat.
So my daughter had those made for me.
Nice.
Somebody has a 3D machine, so they made
them. Wow.
They made them so that I could have them at book signings on the table, and then COVID hit. And so you know how that is. So here we are virtually, so I'll show them to you. So anyway, go on.
They're pretty neat, yeah. Okay, let's see. I had another question for you I wanted to ask. Um, how long did it take you to write those three?
Okay, so I have a day job. So I have, for the past couple of years, I have tried to write every morning for an hour before work. And usually it's around 45 minutes. I very seldom get a full hour just because I've got to get dressed. I've got to, it's a little easier now that I'm working from home because I don't have to, get all dressed up in business casual. I can just wear shorts like I have here. Top is nice and shorts down here. So anyway, pajama bottoms, slippers,
Yeah.
whatever. So I try and write about, an hour, and then on the weekends I try, and then I do with you and a couple of other our writing friends. We do a yearly, if possible two, but usually it's just an annual retreat, and I write every day there. So basically, for these three books, it took me a good to finish those, to get them all done, and they were all complete before I put out the first one. And I think it took me 3 years to write, edit,
Wow.
and just really do it. I would like to get out. So it was basically, I didn't have a book for 3 years because, I'd like to get them out every year. But because this was a trilogy, I didn't want to have a year in between each. So I wanted to have them out relatively quickly. So I released the first one in January and the second one in June, and I just barely released this one in September. And I actually have a full trilogy set out in ebook and print where you can just get all three books in one. And it's a discount, of course, and then you can read it all together.
Wow. Nice to know. On most medias, you can find your book.
Yes, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Of course, because I'm an indie author, you can't get them at a physical brick and mortar, but someday I'm hoping that some of my books will actually be in the bookstores. So,
That's great to know. Okay. I have been reading several books by indie authors that I never heard of. And there's some good books out there, really good books. And I've enjoyed some that I've been the non authors that I don't know about. And it's been fun discovering some of those authors. Let me ask you this, Mary. What are you working on?
okay, so completely different. I forgot to tell you that these are actually under ML Fox. If you'll see that, I can't
Okay.
get where I'm at, but anyway, ML Fox. I decided because Mary Martinez, I write mostly romantic suspense. I write women's fiction and plain romance, and I've got one middle grade. So because those are more contemporary, I didn't want to introduce fantasy because fantasy authors and fantasy readers usually only read fantasy. And I was afraid they wouldn't be able to find me. Or if they, read these and then they saw some other books from Mary Martinez and they picked them up and they weren't fantasy, they would be disappointed. So I
Right.
didn't want to do that. So I am keeping them different. And my next book was supposed to be a romantic trilogy or series, or not a trilogy, but a series. And as I started writing it, I decided I wanted to write a thriller. And I am taking, and I'm not promoting these, but they've been great, is I don't know if any of you've seen the commercials for the master classes with, they've got chefs, they've got Ron Howard, they've got James Patterson, Dan Brown. So they've got all these different things that they give you master classes on. And so I decided to invest in that for my craft. And it's been one of the best things I've ever invested in. And so as I'm watching these and listening to these authors and screenwriters and also directors and how to create scenes and everything, I've decided to write a thriller. So I'm no longer doing my romance. I will down the road, but right now I'm writing a thriller. The working title is The Account, and I'm hoping to have it so that there's such a twist that the reader will be just kind of taken aback going, I did not see that coming. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to try to do edge of your seat. It's about a woman who's an attorney, and she loses her husband and daughter to a just terrible, horrific car accident. And it was deemed an accident, but she's always had this feeling that maybe it wasn't, and it unravels that it wasn't, and why and what happens, and that's.
Wow, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting. Can't wait. Well, that's the questions I had for you, and I hope that you will enjoy the books that we have out there. And if you're a winner, I hope you enjoy the 2 books that go in the package.
And remember, we are going to post the winner at the end of this video, so be sure and watch it to the end. And we would like to let you know that for November, we have a special guest. Judy and I have a friend, Stanley Fletcher. She's one of our friends that goes and writes with us on our annual retreat. She is going to visit with us, and we are going to interrogate her, actually, ask her friends or questions and things. So that will be next week, or next month, for November. We are going to try and do something a little new every month so that it's interesting, so you don't get bored with us.
So we hope that you will return every month. So don't forget to see who the winner is and what the winner gets.
Oh, and I will be posting the winner on my website, and I'm sure Judy is, and I will also put a post on my Facebook, Twitter, and all of that. So the winner will be notified by email, but if you want to know who it is, that's where you'll be able to see. And next month in October, we'll have the same bag, Judy.
Okay, got it right here.
So we will have another winner. If US will get this. If it's international, you'll get the books in e-form. Right, you get in our bag, we have little goodies. But if it's international, you'll still get the books, and you'll get a gift card from Amazon so you can buy your own goodies.
Right.
Okay. Right. So everyone take care through the month of October, and happy Halloween, happy fall, happy whatever is in your neck of the woods. And we will see you back in November with our special guest, Stanley Fletcher.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.